I'm just happy that it's causing this kind of stir.
This is an amazing day. I mean, what can I say? 21 years ago I write a story, and it's sort of there's many other people who have contributed to it other than me, but that it sort of bore fruit in this particular way is an amazing experience.
I was so intrigued by that article to go, what happened? And I was very intrigued to talk with Tom Junod, and as I say, talk me through those 2 weeks where you had this revelation in your life. It's incredible.
Mari ended up seeing something much more profound in Mr. Rogers himself, and I think part of it is because she had a 2-year-old boy at the time. She was looking for places, I think, where that 2-year-old boy would grow up to be a complete human being as opposed to a boy, a consumer, a sports fan, or what have you.
The greatest thing he did to everyone was to listen, and that was his kind of the fundamental or the foundation of everything he did. But if you listen, everything else will come. There is no them, there's only us. So you have to figure it out. So to start listening, if you listen, you'll understand their point of view possibly, and empathy will follow.
Well, I'm a mom of a young kid, and I was thinking a lot about how I want to raise a kind person in the world. So Fred's message felt even more resonant to me than ever.
When I had an almost 2-year-old who wouldn't listen to a word I said, as you know, 2-year-olds do, and I sort of in a moment of desperation, I put on an episode of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and she turned to the screen and she started listening to Fred in a way that she has never listened to me, even still. But I called Micah and I said, I believe I discovered a warlock named Fred Rogers who speaks toddler.
Inclusion. He included everybody. He was one of the earliest people to have children with disabilities on his show, and that's very personal to me. He just proved to be a rather remarkable man, and something that we could use a lot of right now.
I think we don't have a lot of role models right now, people who can help us learn how to be our better selves. And the idea of working on a movie where I got to have Fred's wisdom in my ears for a number of years was really appealing.
Fred Rogers stood up for kids. I think he was an advocate for children by using ways and techniques of teaching them how to deal with their feelings, their emotions, how to learn and how to take life in, and so he studied that. He was a minister, all these things that he cultivated in order that he could serve, a community of children, and I was one of them.
And in Mr. Rogers, you came across a man who had dedicated his life to making, to trying to help young, and by young I mean 2 or 3-year-old people, understand that so many things are all right to be. It's all right to be sad. It's all right to be happy. It's all right to be confused. It's all right to feel unsafe, because there are grown-ups out there who are going to help you through the growing up process.
I had a great character to play, multifaceted, and it was a lot of fun playing my character, Jerry Vogel. But and working with these actors, it's a remarkable, wonderful experience. I'm glad to be aboard.
I got to Pittsburgh and I'm having my fittings, and we recorded the song, and then I was kind of getting acclimated to the amazingness of it all. But then you walk onto the set and it is the land of make-believe. It is to every detail, and I had a visceral reaction. I needed a moment. I had to gather myself, because it just brought me back.
I think this was the film to be a part of in terms of the content, in terms of how it's making people feel, in terms of my castmates. You know, we have Tom Hanks, Matthew Rhys, Chris Cooper. I kind of hit the jackpot. And then we have Marielle Heller, who is, you know, steering the ship. And it was just like a must-do project for me.
You know, Fred had this thing that he would do, and he would ask people to take a moment of silence and think about the people who loved them and to be. And we knew we were going to do a scene that used that. And we decided to pepper the restaurant filled with his wife, Bill Eisler, people who worked on the show for years, the real Mr. McFeely, his nephew. We filled it with Fred people. And it was sort of just a secret thing for us to feel like we were really connected to Fred in that moment.
Tom Hanks brings goodness to his portrayal of a good man.
Tom is very different than Fred, but somehow what we feel about Tom Hanks is somewhat similar to how we feel about Fred Rogers.
I mean, I literally wanted to live in the land of make-believe when I was young, so the fact that I got to actually go walk onto a set where they recreated the land, and then there's Mr. Rogers, who also happens to be Tom Hanks. I mean, who wouldn't want to be in that? And I got to sing with Daniel Tiger, a.k.a. Mr. Rogers, a.k.a. Tom Hanks.
He said that when he would do the program, he would think about one child on the other side of the camera, and he would try to perform just for one child. And I thought about that when we were filming with Tom Hanks. You know, the first day we filmed the opening of the movie, I'm pretty sure that I said to him, I want you to picture one of your grandkids on the other side of that camera lens. And we're going to just do it for her.
I love the way that Tom didn't choose to play Fred or some kind of, you know, reenactment of Fred, but he really chose to imbibe him, and there's this nuance and there's this essence of him, to the point where today I saw a picture of Fred and I said, that's not Tom's face, and I was like, oh yeah, they're not, you know what I mean? He's put his own stamp on it, and I think that, you know, that's what he does. You know, he's a legend for a reason, and he just knows how to play characters.
There's something about the warmth, the goodness we feel when we see him. And it's more about us than it's about him, if you know what I mean. It's what we attach to him. It's what he means to us. It's what he was for us when we were growing up. There are very few actors who have that, and I think he's the only one who could have played this part.
What is unique about him, and has remained unique, I think, throughout his legacy, is that this was not a commercial enterprise. He was not out to make as much money as possible. He never licensed his figures. You could buy toys of him, but he didn't make any money off of this. He was not. His show did not have commercials that sold breakfast cereal or toys that the kids wanted to have. He viewed television as being this instrument that it was turning young children into consumers, as opposed to in the best versions of people that they could be.
He was so brave. When everyone else, when the tide of television was turning, he went, no, we have to stop. You have to slow it down. You have to listen. This isn't what children need at all. They don't need a custard pie in the face. He went against every grain. He fought for the funding. He fought for everything.
He was not only a good man, he was a good man who worked really, really hard at goodness. And I think that's what he can show us. Not just the power of goodness, but the power of working hard at it. And that kindness requires work and practice and discipline.
What I loved knowing about Mr. Rogers was that he was an ordained minister, and his ministry was his television show. And his parish was all of a single child that was on the other side of the television screen. And there's not a lot of that. And it wasn't for altruistic, feel-good reasons. He viewed that as this was his mission in life in order to tender a better philosophy towards human beings that they were going to be getting from this very commercial thing called television.
Mostly I can say that I think he was talking to the people that need to hear him right now. He always talked to the people who needed to hear him. And for the children, he made a safe place. Like he used to say, I want a safe lap for children to sit on. He was a pioneer, a television pioneer.
The world needs the film right now because there is a hole in the world, the size and shape of Fred Rogers, as it turns out. And I think that his example and his inspiration, well, I don't know if it's going to fill it, but it'll at least lead us to start.
He was such a pioneer of his time that he thought, You know what? A great way to get a kid a message is not for me telling it through the TV screen, but for them listening to it through a puppet. You dilute it, it goes in a different way. Genius.
The first part of his career, he was in the studio every day. And so, yes, at night he was still writing scripts. But the first program he did was called The Children's Corner. It was on WQED, and it was not scripted. So, but a whole hour every day, if you can imagine, live.
What we realized we had to do was to look next to Fred, look in the lives of the people who have sort of whose lives he shaped. Because Fred Rogers was involved in the lives of hundreds of people, and he was helping them in private, without any kind of cameras around, day in, day out, writing letters, praying for people by name, just being that sort of secret Presbyterian minister that we knew he was.